All right,
Welcome everybody, Blabber Bunch 2016. Here we go. Right, when was the last time we did one of these? It was like last year or something, wasn't it?
It was right before Christmas, and then we did the Donkey Kong podcast with Redeemer, which, as a matter of fact, is not even up yet. We're still editing that. So basically, maybe when we send these out onto YouTube, we can do a double feature.
That'd be great. But hopefully, I'll be done with that as soon as possible.
But yeah. Today, it's there's no Redeemer today. She's off doing something in her own personal life, which we will not discuss. And so it's just me and Red 5 here tonight. Or rather, this afternoon for me, as I am in the US of A, and it is the afternoon, and it is pitch black darkness in the heart of Germany at the moment.
And my heart as well, because we're gonna... Wait, what are we talking about today? I guess it depends. Right, would you like to introduce our topic today?
All right, we discussed this before in one of our podcasts that was done over stream but never recorded, so it is now lost to the sands of time. Our love of the game Star Fox Adventures. And we're going to have music in the background, and this is where I would cue in some of the music. But anyway, but yes, Star Fox Adventures, one of the games that, even though I was in love with Star Fox 64 as a game, this is the game that made me fall in love with Star Fox as a franchise. What are your opinions on it, Red 5?
I love Star Fox Adventures. See, the thing is, before Star Fox Adventures actually came out in, was that 2002?
Yeah, around 2002. It just missed GameCube's launch window, and as a matter of fact, was going to be out, the release date of which was like 2 days before the Microsoft buyout of Rareware.
Wow, right. That actually makes it very special in that regard as well, and for me too, because it was so early on. As I explained in one of the earlier podcasts, I have not been like a big video game player until very late in my I was like 9 years old or something like that, playing Pokemon, so that was my gateway. I did not have that experience with Star Fox like you did on the N64. So all I knew about was, like little videos, maybe screenshots or something like that, and being able to play as Fox in the original Smash Brothers and Smash Brothers Melee. So I didn't know what I was expecting. I just knew that I liked the character because I thought it was cool. And the first time playing it, I was blown away by it. Mm-hmm. But in a way where I didn't expect it to be like that. I love Star Fox Adventures because it's one of the few games that actually make me feel like I am in a living, breathing world. A world that has a lot more to show than what is on screen. And that to me was a completely different and completely new experience as a little kid. And that was my initial reaction. It took me a long time to really take everything in because there was so much happening and so much looked realistic and or at least looked believable, and I just couldn't stop playing. I remember I was up until very late, and I only got to Thorntail Hollow, or no, I got to the Snowhorn guys. What were they called?
Snowhorn Waste.
Exactly that. Wow, I can't believe I forgot about that. But I also played it in German, and it sounds a little bit different. And
did they actually do a German voice translation, or was it all subtitles?
It was all subtitles.
Aww.
And that was new for me as well, because back then my English wasn't that good, It helped me as well. Like a lot of international people, I also felt like I was improving my English by, playing video games and stuff.
I actually had a person from Brazil who actually stayed at my house for a couple of days due to some kind of exchange program that my mom had set up with her school. He was just here for the week. And I was discussing Star Fox 64 with him. He actually said 64 helped him learn English.
I can see why.
Uh-huh.
Sure. I was just sitting there for hours and hours. I would say maybe it felt like I was there for 4 hours just playing that game, and I didn't get all that far just because I was wandering around and just taking everything in slowly, and it was exhausting in a good way because there was just so much content. I loved it, and I had to put the game off, and all I could think about when going to bed and getting up in the morning was I need to go back to this world. I need to see what's going on. I loved it. It captured my imagination.
Thing is, when I first played it, this is also back, like, obviously, I was 10 years old, or 10 or 11 years old at the time, so I'm not that very good, with following instructions. I actually ended up just wandering around Thorntail Hollow for, like, an hour, just looking around, like, what am I supposed to do? When I realized that I was completely avoiding Crystal's staff, which was sticking right out of the frickin' ground.
And it was glowing and vibrating your controller.
I don't know how, to this day, I just cannot realize just how I missed that. But anyway, I just remember just wandering around Thorntail Hollow, exploring all the things, up until the point where I actually got the staff and actually made some progress. But anyway, in order to keep this conversation more focused instead of just going for direct ramblings, I think we should try and shift this into categories, like what was your favorite area, favorite song, things that you may not have liked about it, and maybe delve into a little bit of the history of Star Fox Adventures.
Okay.
Alright, I think we should start out with that, though. The history of Star Fox Adventures. What we know about it. I think, want me to lead off here, or do you want to lead off?
You just go ahead.
Alright, well, most people know this, but not everybody. Most of us know that Star Fox Adventures did not start out as a Star Fox game. It started out as Rare doing their own project called Dinosaur Planet. It was a completely original story with their own, and basically it was an original story that was their own take on what Ocarina of Time was. So in the same vein that Super Mario 64 inspired Banjo-Kazooie, Ocarina of Time was going to be the direct inspiration for what Dinosaur Planet was. And a lot of the elements were the same. It had Crystal in it, obviously. Then, before it became Fox, there was a character named Saber, and they were supposed to be like adopted brother and sister, and they were supposed to be able to... You were supposed to be able to switch back and forth between the two characters. Crystal was supposed to be playable longer than she was in the final project. But I always thought, like, okay, I heard about this, and it was going to be just like exactly as it was, just with Fox as a character named Saber. I was wrong. This game was actually massively different than what it was supposed to be. Like, it had similar areas, similar level structures, but there was tons of content, tons of, parts of the story. There was going to be a big not until the very end, so it wasn't ripping off Ocarina of Time. There was going to be a time travel element. The Krazoa were supposed to have a deeper impact on the story. There was supposed to be another entire race, dragons, with the enemy Dracor in Dragon Rock being the main villain in the end. There's even a website out there, which I have downloaded most of the stuff I could, like most of just details and data, that pretty much goes into the entire backstory and dialogue options of what Star Fox Adventures was going to be, back when it was Dinosaur Planet. And they had actually had the game like 90% completed before they shifted development to the GameCube, and then switched over to making it Star Fox. So, as far as this info they found, Dinosaur Planet pretty much had everything done except the final boss encounter. That's literally where all development cut off, and then they began work as Star Fox Adventures.
It's crazy how much unseen stuff there probably still is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not entirely sure what to feel about that. I mean, it's definitely a very fascinating story, and probably could have gotten a really, really good N64 game.
It was supposed to be, it was originally supposed to be the last N64 game Rare was going to work on before shifting development to the GameCube. Because most people actually realized there were a number of projects that they had started on GameCube, and even had GameCube prototypes going before the Microsoft buyout was announced. Like, there was going to be a new Perfect Dark game, there was a demo for Banjo 3 ready. A lot of the games that ended up going on the Xbox, such as like Cameo Elements of Power, ended up starting their lives on the GameCube. So there was But I digress. I'm going into a different subject now that I realize. But anyway, it was supposed to be their final, last hurrah for the N64. And they were even going to utilize due to the fact that the game was fully voice acted, full soundtrack, they were actually going to utilize the largest capacity N64 cartridge that could be developed for the system. I can't remember what the exact number is, and by today's standards, it's like less than like 5 megabytes or something.
Yeah.
But back then, that much data was considered massive. But I actually can't remember what the exact number was, but it was supposed to be the largest cartridge that they could produce, meaning this game was going to be big. And here, I know this isn't exactly a good start to, talking about how much we love Star Fox Adventures, because I love Star Fox Adventures. It was a game that was it's embedded in my memory. I need to go back and replay a lot of it, though, because there's a lot of areas I may have forgotten by now, just due to the fact that I haven't played it in a while. It would actually create a new experience for me, in a way, going back and doing that.
Sure.
But, like I said, as great as Star Fox Adventures is in my mind, I still get sad, because I honestly feel like, as good as Star Fox Adventures was, I feel like Dinosaur Planet could have been better. Amazingly better.
Mm.
But that's always, hindsight 2020. That's how it always goes out to me. Instead, I think I should just be happy with the game that I got and the experiences I got from it.
I think you should consider yourself lucky for liking this game. I know a lot of people that hate it just for being what it is.
Oh yeah, Star Fox Adventures was the big schism for the Star Fox fandom, and due to our history on SFO, you and mine's both, we've been there firsthand for some pretty annoying flame wars over the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about Star Fox Adventures, or Dinosaur Planet turning into a Star Fox game? That very fact. Do you feel like did it lose anything?
I feel like maybe it did, because, well, this is one of the few instances where, I hate to sound like a Miyamoto praising fanboy here, but in my opinion, I think this is important because even as much as I like Miyamoto, it proves that he can make mistakes. I honestly think that Star Fox Adventures was one of his few mistakes that actually did not produce a better final product. I honestly felt that as much as I loved the game, I feel like he kind of hurt it by making a Star Fox game, because in the end, like you said, there are a lot of these people that hate Star Fox Adventures because of how massively different it was. So instead of having a game that could have been universally praised and loved, by adding the Star Fox brand into it, I think it might have damaged both series' chances of it being a completely loved and memorable game. It doesn't stop it from being a good game, it's just the circumstances prevented it from soaring the way it should have.
See, this is actually, I think this is really hard to, it's really hard for us to judge because we never played Dinosaur Planet. We never really got to see what the actual vision was.
There actually is an hour-long, maybe it's either 1 hour or 3 hours, but it's a massive take of footage that was taken at an E3 version that somebody managed to get a direct line feed to. It's out there on YouTube. So we got a sampling of it. But then again, you make a good point there, and that's making me step back a bit from what I've said. Now you said, well, like even I just mentioned, Holly hindsight 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always so much you can realize, but just from the information that we got, I honestly feel like it could have been a better product. But wow, I love how we're talking about a podcast where we're going to say how much we love this game. We're already talking about its problems.
Actually, this leads to a very interesting conversation here. I'm gonna pose a question here that is probably really hard to answer, and I don't know if I could, but let's try that. Blabber Bunch, we do the impossible here. Why do you? Okay, see, there are some franchises of movies that actually go through genre shifting.
Yeah.
For example, last time we talked about the time before that we talked about the Alien franchise and just how different all those movies are, going from Alien, very typical horror science fiction kind of thing, to the more action-based, more kind of adventurous Aliens. Why do you think that shift worked and that didn't for Star Fox, going from a flying game to whatever Star Fox Adventures is? What is your opinion on that?
Well, there's a difference between movies and games, but I'll try and describe it as best as I can. With Alien, the reason why that worked is because Ripley encountered that one alien and it rocked her to her core, to the point where it actually scarred her, like, mentally. And so, like, after that, like, it actually shows that in Aliens as well. She managed to survive the encounter, and it even got to the, like, most movies don't do this. It's usually like they go through this horrible experience and then they live happily ever after once it's over. Most movies don't go ahead and delve into the psychological scarring that will cause. Aliens did that. When Aliens had its genre shift, it started the movie out where it showed that this has destroyed Ripley as a person. She has lost everything. She lost 57 years of her life due to just being in cryostasis. All of her friends are dead. In the director's cut of the Aliens, it actually delves into the fact that her daughter has grown up and died without her. And it shows that this alien took everything from her. So that when she learns that there are other aliens out there, that there could be an entire hive of these damn things, it takes the next logical step. She knows what this does. She knows how dangerous they are. She needs to wipe them out, exterminate them. That's the step, is that she realizes what it did to her and what it will do to other people if they aren't destroyed. So that's where that logical step takes place, and how that actually evolved it. It wasn't just a genre shift, it was an evolution of character. It showed that Ripley was willing, even though she was very scarred by this experience, she was willing to step up and battle these things and make sure they were destroyed forever. So the escalation from pure horror to, I've had enough, I'm gonna frickin' kill these things, that was a logical step. But then again, like I said, that's the difference between movies and games. With most games, let me take another example that might not exactly resonate well with people, seeing how much they hated this installment. This jumps between Dead Space 1, 2, and 3. Basically, Dead Space 1, pure horror. Dead Space 2, horror mixed with action. Dead Space 3, full-on action. There was an escalation there that made sense, even though it did get away from actually having the horror roots of what made Dead Space what it was. But at the core, it retained the exact same gameplay style. An over-the-shoulder, third-person shooter utilizing cobbled-together weapons. Like, the actual core mechanic of the game stayed the same, even though the fine-tuning of the controls shifted after a while, so that way its gameplay style was more lent towards open combat, as Dead Space 3 was. But at the core, Dead Space remained the same throughout all three franchises. An over-the-shoulder, third-person shooter, which prioritized strategic dismemberment of your enemies. All three games had that. Now, here's where it comes with Star Fox Adventures. It jumped from an arcadey, in-cockpit combat game, air combat game, that was mainly meant to be a straightforward arcade style with slightly branching paths. And then it went to an open-world, on-foot hack and slash. So the reason why it didn't work as well, like, I love both games to death. That's what people don't seem to realize, though, is that even if they are different, you can still love them both. Come on, you don't have to constantly badmouth people over that. And I'm just talking about fandoms at large. I get sick when I see people argue over that fact. Like, I enjoyed both games, but you cannot deny it was a radical shift in tone and genre by taking it from an arcadey, on-rails, bullet hell shooter to an open-world, hack-and-slash adventure game. However, on the flip side, it actually, in terms of... Star Fox never had much of a deep lore. But by creating this world, suddenly realizing that this character, there was an entire different world of almost mystical proportions embedded in this sci-fi adventure, it added some world building that wouldn't have been there otherwise. So while it detracts a bit from the gameplay experience, from a lore perspective, it adds on a brand new layer of depth to what the Star Fox universe is. It means that it kind of leads to that idea where, like in old Star Trek shows, where they would always go to these other planets and they would encounter something very almost magical seeming that they never encountered on any other world. It adds in that kind of level of world building depth. So, yeah, I feel like the shift to what Adventures was both helpful and detracting at the same time, just in different ways.
I am pretty much of the same opinion, actually. You know, to go back to my question, it was actually a very tricky question just because genre means two completely different things in the medium of film and of video games, obviously. See, with movies, it's like the language of cinema, how you portray things, elements of storytelling and everything. With video games, we've got a more touchy subject, and that is it is gameplay mechanics. Being able, like, the player involvement, being able to control the game and how you control it and what you do. Because with a movie, you watch it, no matter what genre it is. The way you are involved is more, through emotions and through all those other different things. But all those inputs that you give video games create a completely different experience from one genre to the other. With Star Fox Adventures, I am absolutely agreeing with you. It felt like it was expanding the world. However, just like from Aliens to Alien, and I agree with you there as well, it is like the necessity of the story, of the lore, that makes that one particular part of the franchise completely valid. Even though Aliens is a completely different genre than Alien, it feels necessary. It feels like that is the next logical step. And I feel the same way with Star Fox Adventures, you know? Not so much with the genre of it being an adventure Zelda type of dungeon thing, but more so that it gives you now, after Star Fox 64, a more in-depth and more like quieter kind of look at the universe of, you know, Star Fox. To me, Star Fox Adventures has always been like Temple of Doom was to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
That is actually a good analogy.
It is like this one kind of side quest almost, something that takes the characters out of their natural environment and putting them into this very strange kind of place, and they have to see how they deal with that. In much like the grand scheme of things is much smaller. You know, it's not about like that one threatening force like, you know, the Nazis meaning to take over the world or whatever. We've got like smaller stories. We've got like different things happening here. Also, what's happening in Star Fox Adventures, and in a way, I feel Star Fox Adventures is such a good sequel, not just because it goes that Temple of Doom kind of way, but it also does a lot of things that The Empire Strikes Back is actually doing. And it is being quieter. It is being more reflective of things. It is giving the characters more time to do what they do. It's like this adventure that is going on inside them slightly as well, you know? I mean, we know more about Fox through Star Fox Adventures than we do Star Fox 64. And that's the wonderful thing about it. But this is the point. This is the point where you will see whether or not you care about that kind of stuff or not. If you are the video game player type that only likes playing video games for like the gameplay mechanics and doing things in the game just because you want to satisfy those gamer needs, then yes, Star Fox Adventures is probably not going to do it for you. But if you are invested in the Star Fox franchise on a much more lore-based level, on a character level, on a more kind of open-minded level for like meta elements of a video game, then Star Fox Adventures should actually be really good for what at least it is trying to do. Um, I guess this conversation actually arises a lot of different questions. I'm not entirely sure where to dive in there.
Well, I think the next logical step would be to talk about exactly what we liked about the game itself, why we're willing to defend this, even though it is such a massive shift in what 64 was, and then eventually what they went back to with Star Fox Assault. I guess we should talk about like why we like this game so much. And this is going to be a weird one for me, but one of the things that really made me like this game so much was, in fact, the music. Star Fox Adventure's soundtrack is honestly, I think, one of David Wise's best pieces of work. And we already got a guy that managed to make some really good stuff involved, like with the Donkey Kong games. And then apparently he's also coming to assist Grant Kirkhope with Ukulele, for what they're working on right now over at Playtonic. He's going to be making some songs while Grant Kirkhope makes the more classic Banjo-Kazooie style stuff, like what they're trying to do with that. But anyway, like, I noticed, like, I have a much bigger library now and more songs to switch to. But back when I first discovered the internet and learned about how I could download video game soundtracks, whether for free or just do fan rips. I mean, like, whether to pay or with fan rips. God, I made myself sound like a pirate right there. But anyway, but the point I'm trying to make is, once I started downloading soundtracks and listening to them, I found one of the ones that, back when I was younger, I had a lot of trouble getting to sleep. And I found the best way to help me get to sleep was to listen to game soundtracks. And I found the one I liked to listen to most was the more ambient pieces from Star Fox Adventures, which is where David Wise is at his best. I feel like the ambient pieces, like the more low-key, mood-setting themes, were a lot better than what the combat themes were. Although I did love, like, my favorite combat theme in Star Fox Adventures was definitely the, when you fight a Sharp Claw. Like, there were other themes, like when you fight the Red Eye Tribe, or just, like, certain minor enemies or bosses. But I felt like his best one was the Sharp Claw theme. Mainly because of the differentiating uses of, like, certain percussive instruments during those battles, along with your typical, like, brass and such. But that's the thing where he really did a good job with making the soundtrack, was the percussive instruments. Like, he always added, like, and yes, it's about dinosaurs, tribes of dinosaurs, so adding, like, this primal drum beats or, like, cams into the back, it helped made you feel like you were on a planet of dinosaurs, of, like, primitive, like, prehistoric land. But anyway, back to my original subject. They like, some of the ambient pieces he made for that soundtrack were the most soothing pieces I've ever been able to listen to. During times when I just need to come down from the day and just frickin' relax. Like, not put myself in a tense mood, not keep myself focused, but just to lean back in my chair and just relax would be some of the more ambient sounding pieces. Mainly like Krazoa Palace, the early version of Thorntail Hollow's Night theme, Lightfoot Village, Snowhorn Wastes at night. Wait, there was no Snowhorn Wastes. I mean, Dark Ice Mines at night. Just some of those songs were just so soothing. It made you feel safe. It made you feel like you should. Like, it helped, project that feel of a calm night on a world full of creatures that weren't out trying to kill you. They were trying to live just like the rest of you would. And then, like I said, some of the more, upbeat, some of the more, like, intense themes, or just like mood-setting pieces, like, in particular, the Ocean Force Point Temple. It made you really feel like you were wandering around in a place filled with water. Like, just the way some of even the drum beats, and just the way the strings and stuff moved through, it had a flowing feel to it. It made you feel like rippling water. And that's hard to do, to have sound, that it doesn't sound like water, make you feel like you're in water. What do you think?
I absolutely agree with you. Actually, the Ocean Force Point Temple music might just be my favorite. I do, however, also generally like the more relaxing, low-key pieces, or like the more ambient ones,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where they almost qualify as not so much, you know, music. But I just like that because it creates a lot of atmosphere, and as I said before, it kind of helps you kind of go inwards a little bit, you know, reflect on yourself, on your character, on the world, taking it slow and really making everything have a lot of weight to it. I really like. I don't know if I mentioned that in one of the million podcasts that we lost talking about Star Fox Adventures. And dear God, I hope we're not going to lose this one.
Oh, I hope not either.
I love the gas chamber music. It's called the gas chamber.
Yeah. You talked about this one, and then we were like, what?
Right. Oh my! It just sounds so. It's the chamber with the gas, and I like that.
Because you would not think like a gas chamber as being something soothing. That just sounds more horrific than anything else.
Well, I mean, see, even that,
I better have the gas chamber music playing during this piece. I hope you know.
Oh, great. Well, all right, then let me talk about that. See, the thing is, that's a seductive gas coming in. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm doing with my voice right now. I'm really tired. But see, with that as well, you know, it is a very menacing part of the game. You feel like you're going to suffocate. However, it kind of makes you feel like you're about to fall asleep. Like the effects of the gas you hear in the music, and not so much the danger of the situation itself, which again I feel like is really good for world building. It's really good for immersion, you know. And the music has been a big part of Star Fox Adventures, where sometimes like the wastelands of the snow horns, that feels like there was no music at night, was there?
Yeah, it was completely silent.
It was completely silent. All you heard was maybe some like ambient like bird noise, like owls.
Yeah, I remember in the Star Fox Adventures, you know, rip on Star Fox Online, that particular piece was actually dubbed High Altitude Critters.
Yes, actually, that's what it is, and I feel like even the quieter ones, just the sound design and everything.
Oh, like
was.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead. What were we gonna say?
Well, anyway, like one of my favorite things actually is like in the sound test, you know, Slippy dancing around the jukebox on the bridge. Well, anyway, there's that actually in the sound test where they recorded where some of these pieces were ripped from. Actually has like the ambient background noises. One of my favorite ones to listen to are actually down by the oceanside waves from Cape Claw, and even like in like the cave, like even the caves, the high altitude thing on Ice Mountain, just the blowing wind, and you can hear wolves in the distance. Which seems weird that there's howling wolves in a world of anthropomorphic characters.
Yeah, but
that's just a side note.
I think that's the great thing about it, though. Yeah, you don't. But playing the game, at least I didn't think of like, where's the wolf? You know, like, it's just it's things that humans connect with. You know, if you were to, I know this sounds really strange, but if you were to give this game to like an alien creature, right, an intelligent alien, it wouldn't have the same effect just because they're not used to those sounds.
Exactly.
And they would probably be more likely to point out that that's wrong, even though you would think we're more familiar with this world. But that's not what it is about. It is, I feel, all those things, like the music and the sound design, and it's to an extent the graphics as well, they all touch you on a subconscious level.
Yeah, like a perfect real-life example here is that, well, this is part of American, folklore and all that. But have you at least ever heard of Lewis and Clark?
I think I did.
Well, this I know we're getting off track here, but this has a point to what we're talking about. During the Louisiana Purchase, when we purchased most of the lands between on the other side of the Mississippi River from the French, afterwards these two men, Lewis and Clark, they were Meriwether Lewis, and I can never remember Clark's first name, but anyway, they were charged with mapping out the Western Territories, and they went all the way up the Missouri River and through the lands all the way to the Pacific. And there's one story that when they came through this particular area, through my part of the country, Missouri, that's where they started. They had never heard a coyote before in their life. And they actually documented that one night when they were camped out, they actually heard some coyote packs just yipping and hollering. And they said it was they had never heard coyotes before. And it was the most terrifying thing they had ever heard in their life, simply because it was unknown. And I know exactly how they feel. They come around to the edge of my backyard all the time during the night, and I'll hear them yipping outside my bedroom window, like down into the distance. But that's the point I'm trying to get to here, is that there's certain things you add just to background noise that helps set you feel like you're in a certain area. It's because humans react to it on a very primal level. So adding in that level of sound design, even if it didn't make sense in the Star Fox universe to have some howling wolves in the distance, being on the top of that mountain and that blowing snow wind, and to hear the wolves in the distance just howling, it made you feel like you were in a frozen wilderness in the middle of nowhere. Hearing those altitude critters, like the mourning doves, the loons, like, and Snowhorn Waste, the yeah, I know that was a terrible loon imitation. But anyway, the point is that just having those there, it made you feel like you were in like a tundra or in a frozen wilderness, or just like up somewhere at night. That was an excellent sound design.
That's right. And I don't even think that's a problem. I mean, you can point out and be like, look, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if you are so into lore and world building, then, strictly speaking, that is kind of taking it out as well. But I don't think at all, just because, you actually explained it really well. I don't even know what I'm going on about it. I just love it so much. I would love to defend it all day. They just knew exactly when to really take care of making the world make sense, and where it doesn't have to make sense, I mean,
felt like a living, breathing world.
Exactly, and we're not going to talk about the buildings and how it probably doesn't make too much sense if the dinosaurs themselves build it all, even though it was never really said that the Thorntails actually build like their little village and like the bazaar and things like that. But
well, that's mostly for like the bipedal creatures, like the Lightfoots, the Sharpclaws, not to mention maybe the ancient Rozoa.
Exactly. We don't know what came before them. We don't know. Maybe they migrated there. Maybe, but it like there's still some things where you can't really make up excuses like that. I just can't think of them top of my head right now, but there I feel like the game doesn't take itself too seriously either.
Well, there are plenty of comedic moments as well.
Exactly. However, even then, and that's why it's so wonderfully, perfectly, carefully crafted, it knows its limits there too. It can be really funny and everything, and it does sometimes kind of almost directly speak to the gamer, I feel, at least, where like, well, not so much, directly, but like Fox would say how he, like, just comment on things, like typical video game stuff, like, oh, that again, oh, like, I'm gonna get a reward for doing that particular thing and everything, and you connect with him as a video game player, right?
Yeah.
It still doesn't like break the fourth wall and everything. I feel like that's so important for Star Fox Adventures. It is strictly lore speaking. It is the second entry into the like newly rebooted Star Fox franchise, and now with the element of probably some like mystical elements like magic, you really have to kind of play it straight to make it look believable in that world. It might not be realistic, but if you have set certain rules and certain reactions of characters and certain effects on the world, then it will feel believable because you adapt those rules in your head. And I think Star Fox Adventures is doing a really, like, it's doing a completely perfect balance of comedy and how it wants to take itself seriously for the sake of story and the world itself.
Definitely.
That wasn't much of a question. I just wanted to get that out there.
Well, anyway, next subject. Like it's obvious we've talked this point through to the point that we can make it. What's your favorite song? Now that I realize, you said it was the Gas Chamber.
It's either the Gas Chamber or it's probably the Ocean Force Point Temple.
That's my favorite too.
I guess it's just something so soothing, and you said so wonderfully as well. It feels like you're in a place with a lot of water. You know, the way the drums are played, like there's this floaty, deep kind of feeling to it all.
Not to mention, there's kind of a warbling effect too.
There is, isn't there? See, I wouldn't be able to detect that. Not so much because I don't focus on music so much. It's just because I surrender to the music in this game. I just don't question it anymore. I just feel it. And
there's one last thing I want to mention about another thing. Like I don't know if they did this intentionally, but with the Ocean Force Point, as you enter, like, remember how the main door to the Ocean Force Point is like sealed off, and you have to climb up the side of the building in order to get it, of the structure, in order to get into that side entrance up there.
Oh, I see it in my head right now.
Yeah, but as you go down that stairway, that weird stairway down to that main area. Anyway, like when the Ocean Force Point theme begins, it has this weird, like the drums kind of descend in pitch as it goes down. So it kind of has that feeling of, descending into this temple or descending beneath the water. And right when it reaches the lowest point that the drum pitch can go, that's when the watery themes start. It kind of makes you feel like you've just dove underwater, or that you have descended into some mystical place. I'm not entirely sure if they've done that on purpose, or if that was just like, David Wise just trying to make something interesting sounding from the water. But it really, when I first entered there, the way that music started playing as I went down those stairs, that winding stairway, it felt like I was just descending into this mysterious place.
I'm pretty sure that was deliberate. Maybe it wasn't commissioned just like that, but David Wise probably had a lot of freedom to do whatever he wanted.
Exactly.
At least it sounds like it. I guess people can complain about how we talk about all those little things that are probably not that significant, but I feel like that is very important. That's what sets this apart from a lot of other games, because how many times have we played Zelda? How many times have we played games kind of similar to this,
Exactly.
It's this what makes it so special. It's the attention, it's detail, and honestly, considering how it was...
It's the simple things you treasure.
Yes, of course you do, because, as I said, I feel like it really helps the experience, but you've really got to, like, have an open mind towards that. If you already feel like, even though this game is really good, even in its presentation, if you are not open-minded for what is trying to be, it will not be able to win you over.
Exactly.
If you already tell yourself, I'm not going to like this, the game sadly does not have the strength of making you like it no matter how you go in. Maybe it's unfair to say that it doesn't have the strength of it, but it doesn't even try to. It doesn't try to make you like it. It is what it is. And if it makes sense for you, if it makes sense to you, it is something for you, I would say. Wow. But, yes, I think the presentation is, even though it's cartoony, it's kind of over the top at times.
It was very much, it had a... Okay, I hope this makes sense the way I say it because of the name of the company. It had a very rare feel to it. A very rareware style of... It was very much a rareware game. It had that, like, it had a feeling to it that kind of, and actually in a way mixed in with the games like Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong, just through the simple touches that the company was known for. So if you're a fan of rareware games, then you would definitely be a fan of Star Fox Adventures, even if you weren't a Star Fox fan.
I would say so. I feel it's really hard to put into words what makes Rare the way it is. It's easy to point out why they're good, but just what creates the Rare mood, what creates the atmosphere,
Exactly.
in Star Fox at least, I can tell you that while it knows what it is, and it's kind of lighthearted most of the time, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, because there was that point when they were like, mob beating that the Cloud Runner Queen.
And that is the stuff that balances it out. Like, it knows those those funny scenes exist and everything, but it's not cynical. It's kind of cheeky, but it's not really in your face.
Well, that scene was like a part of the details that were revealed in the original Dinosaur Planet setup. That scene was radically darker. They actually outright killed the Cloud Runner Queen.
Oh, well.
Yeah, in the original one, they killed the Cloud Runner Queen right there. They beat her to death. That's kind of dark, now that I think about it. Like, another thing about the original Dinosaur Planet was that it was going to be a lot, like, it still maintained its lightheartedness, but at the same time, there were a lot darker elements that were going to be in throughout the whole thing. There was even going to be one point where Saber and Crystal try to kill each other due to a misunderstanding.
Yeah, well, this actually makes you think, like, was kind of retreating from that an effect of trying to work in the Star Fox feel to it, because Star Fox is quite corny in that regard. So it kind of is a little
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know what it is that would kind of retreat from that.
Well, for one, I think it had to be Nintendo's direct involvement with one of their properties this time around. Like, Rareware, like, obviously with, even though Nintendo screwed up the marketing, obviously with a game like Conker's Bad Fur Day, they let them run wild. And with a game like Dinosaur Planet, they would have let them have free reign to what they wanted to put in. But when it came to handling one of Nintendo's properties at the time, they probably had them reel in some certain things to make it less dark. Because it's Nintendo, it's supposed to have that family-friendly image. Even if Zelda had some of those darker moments, that was Zelda, though. That was known for having some pretty hardcore moments. Star Fox was very much the lighthearted, corny, woohoo, animals flying spaceships kind of a thing. There were some things they probably would have needed to reel in order to maintain that brand image of the game at the time. But anyway, I think that's pretty much all we can talk about on that subject. Why would you... Here's another one that I actually find interesting. Getting into the gameplay. What was your opinion of the combat system?
Oh, that's... that's not easy to talk about. Especially when I'm losing my voice.
Oh, no.
Sorry. Sorry. You might want to cut that out. The combat system, what I think about it. I had very mixed feelings about it. It was probably one of those things that I didn't quite know how to feel about the first time playing it, because around then, at least in the circle of my friends, there was a lot of talking about how newer games or games that were coming out that particular year were just too easy, and it was just button mashing and everything. And I just played Smash Brothers Melee, and I was like, no, look, it's really deep. You've got to do so many things and so many directions and everything.
Exactly.
And it's really difficult. And then Star Fox Adventures comes along, and it's kind of like, wow, I guess they're kind of right. I see that you can have a lot of interesting input. You can make Fox do all kinds of amazing things by pushing different directions and mashing the A button, but basically you don't have to do it because it's just so easy.
But in my opinion, I actually honestly think that there were several nuances to the combat system that made it feel a little deep. But mainly, I feel like maybe I'm actually kind of developing my opinion on this as I talk, because I had an opinion before, then I started thinking about certain things. It kind of matched the Zelda style of thing, where an enemy would block, you would wait for an opening, and then just wail on them. However, you could make Fox do different moves depending on what direction you held the control stick in at the time while hammering the A button. Like, if you held forward, it was just a complete onslaught, and then flip, and then take off, have his thing, wash, rinse, repeat. Whereas if you leaned the control stick back, he would start twirling the staff with rapid hits that could take out an enemy in actually one. That could actually take out an enemy in one barrage rather than two. Then there was another one if you hit the roll button, like where you normally roll out of the way of an attack, if you immediately attack from coming up from the roll, you can trip the enemy and then wail on him another way. There were several nuances that if they had designed the enemy attacks a bit better, it could have been a very deep and immersive combat system, learning how to, go after enemies in a certain way rather than just wait, block, attack, block, attack. Just having those directional inputs added different abilities just in the staff combat, not just with things like the Fire Blaster and the Frost. And even then, they added some things, like some enemies you couldn't kill until you froze them first, and then you had to hit them. See, there's this weird hodgepodge of relatively deep ways of defeating the enemies, and then rather simplistic ones. So it's a bit of a mixed bag when it came to the staff combat system.
Yeah, I think that just stems from the fact that while you can do all those amazing and deep things, you don't have to. If the game told you, like, there's that specific enemy or there's that specific situation where you have to change your strategy to that particular move or whatever you have to do there, then I would be a little bit more happy about it. But just because those things were there didn't mean that a lot of people used them. So a lot of that kind of goes unnoticed, sadly.
Whereas, another thing I was wondering about. There was one thing I did have a big complaint about, and I hate to bring up JonTron's review of it since that review was so, biased. But there was one point he came up with that did make a lot of sense, and I understand why he made it. Some of the sound, like, we just talked about some really good sound design in the environments. However, some of the enemies and object interactions had so many stock sound effects. Like, especially if you hit one of the, if you hit the snow horns or you hit the thorntails, they gave out like the noises that that the thorntails make. That's camel noises. That's actually a camel noise, and not to mention, and this is gonna link together in a different way as well. Whenever you went past those freaking red mushrooms, the sound effect it makes when they blow the gas out is the exact same damn sound effect that the imps make from Doom when they throw a fireball at you. And so, and then and also some of those camel noises that the thorntails make when they get hit were also used as the death grunts for the freaking imps in Doom. And so, okay, I'm not sure if the listeners will know about this, but you already know about my horror show that was Doom when I was 5 years old, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I recognized that stupid gas noise as being the imp fireball noise when I first played it, and I'm like, oh god, those are the imps. And then I ended up getting these bad, creepy, crawly feelings because I remember the bad feelings that game gave me, and it just took me right out of the game.
Thank you, Rare.
Like, that's just one of the moments where I felt like the sound design kind of fell to the floor. But then again, I also have to remember that this was originally made for the N64, where they had a lot less resources, and considering how they had to restart development in a way when they moved to the GameCube and then get things in under the frickin' Microsoft buyout time limit, I could see where they would need to cut corners in order to get the game out the door. That's why all the content that we talked about was cut, and how the ending was a lot different than it should have been. That makes me believe that we should move on into our next subject right there. What was your opinion of the ending?
I loved it. I've always loved the ending. I actually loved it so much that like when I was 12 years old, first time playing this, I would play the ending over and over again.
I used to too, but
really?
I don't know. Like, this might be one of the moments where you and I radically differ on something. Most of the time I've noticed that I'll say I'll like something and then you didn't like it. This is one of the rare moments where it's reversed. I actually didn't like that ending. Well, I liked it fine when I was younger, but as I got older, and I started thinking about more and more stuff, and also when I started learning about the outside influences of of the Microsoft buyout limiting their time. Seeing how it was essentially a more simple rehash of the ending to Star Fox 64. I don't know, I felt, part of me thinking about it now, it feels like it was shoehorned in. Like it didn't really match in tone, even with the R-Wing segments. It didn't really match in tone to what everything was supposed to go. And it felt like, wait, how is Andros there? He was dead. Unless there's some kind of piece of lore that I'm missing, how would he even have gotten there in the first place? I don't know, it's just, with me in particular, I feel like that ending was just kind of shoehorned in.
That's the beauty of it, though, I feel. I agree with you. It doesn't feel like it was planned from the beginning, but it actually inspired me. See, I had my project, Star Fox the Lylat Wars movie, and I would have had a good explanation as to why Andros made it there. I was going to explain everything that the games didn't, and I'm not going to talk about it now. I don't know if I ever want to do something with it again, and I really shouldn't give it away.
Alrighty.
But
well, anyway,
basically,
now that I think about something, though, there is one thing that could have possibly made it make sense, even if it is a bit of a stretch. You've known about that tie-in comic they made for Star Fox Adventure, right? Farewell, Beloved Falco? Well, the whole crux of that comic was actually that they were trying to clone Andros.
Yes, that's the thing.
So I'm honestly wondering, yes, it's more of like, headcanon at this point, but maybe it was just another clone.
Now, like, okay, that's actually much deeper than we need to talk about it, but like, if it is a clone, then does it really make it Andros? Or
part of the story was that they were also re-implementing Andros's memories into the clone.
Yeah, but would that be enough? I mean, it's just his, just knowing when to stop, like, is it still him, even if it has all his memories and everything? Is it still, like, do you believe in something like a soul, or do you believe in something like where this is your place in the universe? Would that be the continuation of that one particular instance of that creature or that person? This is really deep, and I think we can't really talk about that.
Well, the thing with me is that, okay, speaking from that's the way of looking at it from a spiritual standpoint. But from a scientific standpoint, the mere fact that the entity itself has been recreated and re-implemented with all the thoughts and memories and mental faculties that made the original just as dangerous would automatically make this incarnation as dangerous as he was before, and therefore needs to be put down. So either way, the danger level is still there.
Oh, that definitely, sure. I mean, either way, it's something that him, like, Andros disappearing, I feel like did give everything kind of a what the fuck is happening kind of feel, and that can go like either like really well. That can either work or it'll be really bad. It can barely be anything in between. And I feel like that's something, if we want to talk about Indiana Jones, like, we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of Americans don't have a problem with the Indiana Jones endings. I don't even know if you know about this, but there are quite a lot of people that do not like all that stuff that happens at the end of the movies. Especially my German friends do not like how it kind of goes into a supernatural kind of thing at the end of it all. Even if the movies are completely unrealistic in like how much like Indy can endure and everything, it's that one particular thing where everything just goes absolutely apeshit and people like start losing their faces and like everything's horrible. That's something that puts off a lot of people. However, it can also be very interesting to some because now that one power that everyone's kind of been talking about, like that MacGuffin, kind of becomes the power of it becomes unleashed, and it kind of shows you why those people really wanted that particular object, because you see the power of it, or like the dangers,
Yeah, I like that too.
Exactly. Like I wouldn't think you wouldn't like that, but a lot of my German friends don't. That's really interesting. But maybe that's not a very good example. But let's talk about the oh crap. I don't know if I can talk about that. But well, I'm not gonna give anything away. But last time we were talking about movies, I talked about The Last Exorcism and how much I love it and the ending. And
don't give away anything like spoilers. And well, with Star Fox Adventures, like that was the main crux of the conversation. Most of the people who are going to be listening to this will have played it anyway. That's why we spoiled the Andros ending. Now that I think about it, but with big movies like that, I wouldn't talk about that because that could aggravate a lot of people.
Yeah, I suppose. It's really hard to make my point now. Actually, though, you know what? I'm not gonna talk about it. I'm just gonna say that I like it when everything kind of has been giving a new meaning at the end when it does make sense. You know. I feel like there's a little bit of if you want you can delete that whole last exercise by the way.
Don't worry about it. This is kind of a free-form podcast anyway. Let's just keep talking.
Yeah, all right, okay. Just so you know, you can cut that. I don't want to give you too much of a job of like editing. So anyway.
Don't worry.
All right. Right. The ending to Star Fox Adventures to me actually feels like something out of the Dark Crystal almost. Mm-hmm. Just in a different kind of way. The Dark Crystal did not have like all of a sudden this thing appearing at the end that you did not know about before, whatever, you know. But the very fact that there's this unseen force that you keep seeing in the Dark Crystal, it's the Skeksis. You see them in the beginning, that's the first thing you see. But to a lot of people in the world, like the main character, some of them will probably not know that those are the ones behind everything. And there have been horrible monsters plaguing the world and everything, and it just kind of feels so random and just so mean-spirited out of nowhere. But when you finally know who's behind it all kind of makes sense, and you feel like you can give your life that you've experienced with all those horrible things, like, meaning. You can give it, like, understand it much better.
Exactly.
It gives you a good look of what you had to deal with and why it was happening. And you feel better about yourself that way. And I feel like Andros gave that to Star Fox Adventures as well, where it was like, man, is there magic in this? Mm-hmm. Are the Krazoas magic? Is the staff magic? Is this just technology? What is it all?
It seems that Andros discovered the ancient power of the Krazoa, and by trapping Crystal, who had the ability to channel this power, he was able to use this energy to revive himself.
That's right. Mm-hmm. That's right.
I can't believe I had that memorized.
That's perfect. Absolutely perfect. You can check that, but I'm sure that's the way it is. Oh god, my phone keeps going on. Yeah, I feel like even though they kind of stated like that, it was still speculation of like on the character's part right there.
Yeah.
No. But it still kind of feels like, okay, if it is Andros, and we know that he's a mad scientist and everything, maybe there was some science related to it. Maybe everything has been giving something that makes it tie closer to the Star Fox universe already.
Yeah.
While it is a strange place, and Dinosaur Planet seems so far away from the Light system, even though it is within it, all of a sudden.
Besides, who knows what Andros was doing during the other times? Like, just because he had sent his armies out to take out the Light system doesn't mean he wasn't doing some kind of a twisted research back on his base.
In fact, that makes so much sense that he would. I mean, he was banished from Corneria anyway, so who knows what he's been doing? 5
years, not to mention a several unknown amount of years after he killed Fox's dad.
Seriously. Anything could have happened there, and the very fact that, like, there are so many ships that kind of look like they could be from Venom flying around in the orbit of Dinosaur Planet kind of makes me think that maybe even during the war something was going on there.
Exactly.
This planet was probably not as untouched as it appears. So I like that. I felt like it was just putting everything into this interesting, lovely perspective of Star Fox. Mm-hmm. Even though I do agree it feels rushed and it feels like it's been kind of it happens too quickly because the game has been so slow before, and now it's like Andros, Falco, whoa, no, everything's happening all of a sudden, and
exactly.
There you go, there are the credits already. I understand that, but the idea of it, I still very much appreciate it, and yeah, I loved it back then.
Nice. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about this particular thing?
Let me actually see how much have we been talking here. Oh Jesus Christ. Actually, no, I don't know. Do you have anything?
I don't really have anything else I can add. I think we've talked about quite a bit of what we wanted to say, and that's pretty much like this is just one subject out of many. And sometimes maybe we don't have to do like maybe 2 hours or so.
No.
Exactly.
No. See, the wonderful thing, I just want to add one last little thought there.
Yep.
The wonderful thing about any video game is that it's always personal experience, you know, and that's what really makes us gamers as well. Movies are wonderful, you know, any kind of other media like books or comic books and everything like that. That's great. But as video game players, we have the ability to go into a world on a visual and much more involved kind of way than any other medium, and that's why every experience is very intimate. It's very different, and I think that's what makes Star Fox Adventures so special. You can either love it, you can hate it, anything in between. It depends on the mindset that you're in and how you approach this video game. I would say I wouldn't even know who to recommend it to, just because being a gamer is so complicated, and there's so many things having an effect on your experience that I'd be like, you know what? If you want to play Star Fox Adventures, just go in blind. Do not go in with any expectations, and see how it affects you. We could talk about so many things.
Yeah.
We can talk about the graphics. We can talk about the music somewhere, the characters, the dialogue, the way it was made, and the history, and all that.
But at the end of it, I think we just end up chasing our tails, talking about something we've already spoken of. Really, we've said all that we can say.
I guess so, yeah. And some other things probably best not to talk about. Just let it, you know, have an effect on you. Experience it, live the world, and have fun. I think that's the most important thing.
Right. Well, looks like that's all the time we have for that today, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much for listening, and yeah, hopefully this will be up in a timely manner. Hopefully not before the Donkey Kong thing, because that'd be really embarrassing on my part.
Exactly.
But I'll definitely give my best. Anyway, that's all from me.
All right then. Well, we hope you all had a good time listening. We'll see you next time, whenever that time may be. Good night, folks.
Good night.